Governor, you know something about leadership. You have cared about many of the issues and have taken leadership on many of the issues we care about. Whether it was raising the minimum wage across the state, passing the paid family leave, or advancing the highest MWB goals in the nation, or building, and we thank you very much for the new airports and the roads and the bridges. You know what it takes to get things done in our state. You know something about leadership. Governor, we've identified the land, NYCHA land. We've identified the money. We only need one more thing. We need a leader. And Governor, we have just nominated you. As you have gotten so much done in our city, in our state, would you partner? We've asked you for leadership, but today we ask you for partnership. Governor, can we work together to make senior affordable housing a reality all across our city? Governor, would you stand up and be the leader?
No pressure at all from Reverend Brawley. Not a lot of answers to that question, are there? The answer, Reverend, as you know, is yes. Yes, Reverend, well, I'm going to give you more details in a moment if I can. First, to Reverend David Brawley, who is a fantastic, fantastic leader. Let's give him a round of applause. Reverend Sean Lee, thank you for your guidance and your hospitality. To my colleagues in government, Latrice Walker, Lori Cumbo, and Councilman Cornegie, who thought he was just going to sneak in on the way in here. I don't know what he was thinking. Can't do that at 6'6", you know. Let's give them a round of applause. And to my team that is here, that has been working in partnership with EBC and Metro IAF, let me give them a round of applause. I want to speak to you about affordable housing. I want to speak to you about the city and what Reverend Brawley was mentioning, because I want to be helpful. I just want to change the frame a little bit, though, before we start. Reverend Sean Lee is giving a talk on saving our city and the soul of our city. If I could suggest an edit to Reverend Lee, and I do it with caution. I believe the Reverend has a special line upstairs and can inform the conversation at the pearly gates. And I need all the help I can get when I have my conversation at the pearly gates, so I don't want to offend Reverend Lee. But a slight edit, that we're fighting for the soul of our city, and we're also fighting for the soul of our country today. And it's a pleasure to do it here in Brooklyn. My mother's a Brooklyn girl, Flatbush. I started my career here. I built housing off Pennsylvania Avenue on Sutter and Hinsdale. I built affordable housing and homeless housing. I was young then, and I didn't know what I couldn't do back then. But I built Help One, it was called. It was 200 units. It was 1 square block, and it was built to take homeless people out of the welfare hotels that were in Manhattan. At that time, there was a hotel called the Hotel Martinique, which was so bad, so ugly, so disgusting, it would have made Dickens blush. It was really disgusting. And we opened a housing complex with all facilities, services on site. And I remember when the kids first started to come and how much pain they had gone through. Physical health issues, mental health issues, nutrition issues, how many had been abused. And I was amazed at 26 years old. How, in this great city of New York, could we get to such a situation? And we were working with the kids in the facility, and to do something different, I formed a Little League team called the Help One Mets. And we went out and we got donated shirts from one place and donated pants from another place and donated jackets from another place, and none of them matched, so we looked sort of like clowns when we went out there. But it didn't matter to the kids because they had their uniforms, and they were belonging to something which they wanted so desperately. They had an identity. They were terrible ball players. We played in what was called a Latin Souls Little League. We really made the Bad News Bears look like professionals. That's how bad these kids were. But they were tough kids. You had to be going through what they went through. Our slogan was the Help One Mets. We never won a game, but we never lost a fight. And then I went on and I built Genesis Homes, which was half Section 8, half of formerly homeless, and Help went on to become the largest provider for homeless families in the country. I went off to the HUD administration, but when I was doing Help, I had the fortune to watch Nehemiah and watch the Nehemiah complex transform families and transform the community. If we were only smart enough as a society to build more and more and more Nehemiah, this city would be a better city than it is today. But we are in a fight for the soul of this country. And I'm in a fight with our President of the United States about the soul of this country. Now, this is not a political fight. It's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's not about whether you wear a donkey or an elephant on your lapel pin. That's not what it's about. It's about our values. It's about our beliefs. It's about our character. It's about our heart. It's about our soul. Because after watching Mr. Trump for a year and a half and looking at his government policies and looking at his 14,800 tweets that he does, you see the outline of the America that he is drawing, and I am telling you, it is a frightening portrait to me. Because Trump's America is an America of division and intolerance. Now, he doesn't hide it. He doesn't whisper it. We don't have to deduce it. He's not even ashamed of it. He proudly pronounces it. It started very early on in his campaign. The first words out of his mouth in his campaign was he wanted to build a wall on the southern border. Now, the wall was never really about border security. It was about much more than that. If it was about border security, you would be talking about sensors and cameras and technology. That's how you would do border security. He wanted to build a wall as a symbol and a monument of division and ugliness. He wanted to build a wall. He wanted to build a wall to say, keep them out. That's what he wanted to say. He wanted it as a campaign logo. Keep them out. And we know who they are. They are the poor. They are the people who speak different languages. They are the people who have different skin color. They are the people who worship a different God, and they are threatening, and they are bad, and they are the problem. And if we keep them out, then your problems will be solved. How wrong, how ugly, how divisive, how misleading, how disgusting. But it worked. It worked. And he won the election. He ran his campaign on the energy generated by fanning the flames of fear and division. His strategy was divide and conquer. He demonized the millions of Americans and abandoned millions more who were abandoned and never really participated in the promise of America. But our president is a slick salesman. Do not underestimate this boy. We saw him in New York. He can sell ice to Alaskans in the winter. And if you listen to the president, he now tries to wrap himself in patriotism. And he goes around the country and he asks people, is America great? Of course it's great. It's like asking, is the flag red, white, and blue? Yes, it is. But that's not the real question. The real question is whether America is great for everyone. The real question is whether America is as great as she can be. I say our best days in America are ahead because I believe America has untapped potential. Maya Angelou, God rest her soul, says, the gold of her promise has never been mined. The gold of her promise has never been mined. I believe our America will reach her full potential when we achieve the promise of opportunity and equality for all. That's when we'll have the strongest America. We'll have the strongest America when we ever educate every child to the best of their God-given ability. We will have the strongest America when every woman is fully empowered, fully employed, and has full equal opportunity. We will have the strongest America, and we will reach our full potential when the barriers of racism and sexism and bigotry are distant memories rather than present-day realities. That's when America will have achieved her greatness. Now, this president has a bigoted, insular, privileged, selective, sexist view of America. And I'm being kind. Trump's America enables hate and discrimination. He has so emboldened white supremacists that when they rallied in Charlottesville, they didn't even feel the need to cover their faces with sheets. They were so emboldened, they felt so protected that they actually took off their hoods. And how did our President of the United States of America respond? He told the American people, well, there are good people on both sides. Mr. President, I have news for you. Let me be clear. There are no good white supremacists, and there are no good KKK members. And Mr. Trump, you were supposed to be the commander-in-chief, not the divider-in-chief. Now, Trump knows that New York has a different vision. Trump has attacked me in New York State many times. He did it again Friday night in Ohio. And he said in Ohio, No one wants to be in New York because they get sued by the state. Now, it was another cheap, nasty distortion by our president. But what he was referring to was the fact, you're right, was the fact, it is upsetting. I share your pain. What he was referring to was the fact that the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance is investigating his foundation. And there's a larger distinction. In Trump's America, there are two scales of justice, one for the rich and the powerful and one for everyone else. Well, Mr. President, I have news for you. Not here in the state of New York. Lady Justice wears a blindfold, and the law is the law, and no one is above the law, not even you, King Trump. New York State is a world apart from Trump's America. And New York State has always been the progressive leader. My father, Mario Cuomo, was governor for 12 years, and all he tried to do was raise the bar on equality and raise the bar on opportunity for this nation to follow. And New York State has a different definition of success. We don't believe we succeed by dividing. We believe we succeed by including. We believe in the concept of community. We believe that we are all interconnected and interrelated, and there's a cord that connects you to you to you, and that cord weaves a fabric, and when one of us is raised, we're all raised. And when one of us is lowered, we are all lowered. We believe the greatest feast has the most number of people at the table. And that's why I'm proud to be the governor who passed the law with the highest minimum wage in the United States of America, and the best paid family leave program in the United States of America. That's why I'm proud to be the governor who closed more prisons than any governor in the history of the state of New York, and passed the most progressive tax code, and we spend more on education per student than any state in the United States, and I am proud of it. And I'm proud to be the governor who leads the fight against this president. And I'm proud that we're suing this president for ripping babies from the arms of mothers in the name of American justice. It was a disgrace, and it was an embarrassment to this nation. But part of being the greatest state in the nation is our ability to be honest and to be able to look in the mirror and honestly recognize our flaws. And that's Reverend Lee's point, that we have more to do to save the soul of this city. We talk about the school to prison pipeline. To be honest, I think it's worse. I think it's the housing to prison pipeline. I was President Clinton's Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, HUD Secretary. In 1949, this nation promised safe, clean, decent housing to every American. We still have not lived up to that promise. And housing is everything. Housing is the base. Housing is the place where family comes together and can be safe. A house is a home. That is the sanctuary. If you can't live safely, decently, then you cannot start to build a family and build your life. As we sit here today, there is less affordable housing, and we have more homeless than ever before. We have NYCHA, which is a national disgrace. Literally, children being poisoned by lead, and they lied about it. Senior citizens living without heat for years, hallways filled with the stench of urine, elevators that don't work, that virtually imprison people on the top floors. For all our focus on education, we still have the same failing schools in the same communities failing year after year after year after year, and we've done nothing differently because we don't want to admit those schools need more help, more resources, because they're dealing with more challenges. And when the housing fails, and the community fails, and the school fails, then we inevitably introduce our young people to the criminal justice system. And the entry point is Rikers Island. Rikers Island is not only the worst jail in the state, it's a national disgrace. President Obama said it was a civil rights violation in 2014. 75% of the people in Rikers Island haven't been convicted of anything. They haven't even had their day in court. 80% are black and brown. The city has said they're going to close down the jail and build smaller, more humane jails. They said it's going to take them 10 years to do it. It took us 1 year to rebuild Yankee Stadium. It's taking us 4 years to build in LaGuardia Airport. We're finishing the largest infrastructure in the United States of America, New Tappan Zee Bridge, 4 years. But it's going to take you 10 years to build the jail? What does that say about our priorities? Meanwhile, the young men and women in Rikers are getting a government education that they never received before. They're getting a master's degree in hostility and abuse and in drugs and in crime. And rather than receiving a diploma that opens doors for the rest of their lives, they're getting a record that closes doors for the rest of their lives. What is the common denominator between NYCHA and failing schools and Rikers Island? They're all victimizing poor minorities. And let me ask the uncomfortable question. If these were the children of the rich and powerful, do you believe these conditions would be allowed to exist for 1 minute? We must do better, and we are doing better, and we're doing it here in Central Brooklyn. We're starting a program called Vital Brooklyn, which is modeled on something we did with President Clinton and empowerment zones. It is a comprehensive approach that will provide housing, education, job training, open space, recreation, nutrition, all of it at once. It's never been done before. A real comprehensive approach. Because this nation never lost the war on poverty. We never engaged the war on poverty. We never really tried to do it right. Why Central Brooklyn? Because on the numbers, Central Brooklyn is one of the poorest and most distressed communities in the state of New York. Unemployment 3 times the state average. Murder rate 2.5 times the state average. Poverty rate double the state average. Physical inactivity rate 1.5 times the state average. And we're going to do it right with Vital Brooklyn. We're going to take the entire region and plan it all as one, working with our local elected officials, bringing in faith-based communities to help us actually get it done and represent the community. 3,000 new housing units, green markets coming to every community throughout Central Brooklyn, young people with recreational activities. Total price tag, $1.4 billion. You don't have to pay, Lori. $1.4 billion. Now, many people are criticizing me for spending $1.4 billion in Central Brooklyn. But I said to them I would much rather pay for housing and education than to pay for drug treatment and prison cells. I will do that all day long. And today I want to add that we are giving $550 million to NYCHA, the largest amount the state has ever given to NYCHA, because the U.S. Attorney has put in a new monitor, and is going to put in a new independent monitor, and I think with new management, it may be a new day. And we're going to put in the largest state investment ever. But EBC has made an important point. The people who pay the highest price for the bad condition of NYCHA are the seniors. We know how to provide senior housing. Redwood shows how to provide senior housing. We just have to do more of it. And I pledge today, the state of New York will help finance over 1,000 units on 11 projects, on 11 NYCHA sites. Let's get the seniors out of NYCHA, and let's open the page on a new day. Thank you for leading the way. Metro IAF, you led the way. David Brawley led the way. Sean Lee led the way. Everyone here led the way. Thank you and God bless you.